in there for us. And I was going to say, for those who don't know, we, with the Ambassadors Foundation, which of course is the nonprofit side of SDAR, have done a lot of work when we get to elder abuse, fraud, our military endeavors, our holiday house, those types of things, and that's where that comes in. And so we'll be starting those things back up again, but knowing how those scams work, it is amazing what you see in real estate. And they know, because I've actually turned over some names to some DAs with some real estate stuff and some elders when you see some things. So I know that it works, it gets the job done. But I'll say, here we go to another side again. This is, I'm telling you, this is hot topic stuff you just don't get. And it excites me. With that being said, we want to welcome Senator Pat Bates. How are you?
Hopefully this works for you. It certainly works for me so that I can deliver a few remarks. And I'm going to, noticing the time is a little short here, I'm going to do a little bit of reading so I get through some of the important things I think you need to know about the budget. So I'll cover the legislative overview, starting with the budget. I will talk about the housing bills, and then we'll go to the coastal erosion and the coastal commission issues. So it's certainly great to be home after a very long, tedious legislative session when we were coping with COVID. It ended on September 10th, as you know. There were about 25, a little less than 2,500 bills introduced. 836 of those reached the governor's desk. He signed 770 of those with a veto rate of 8%. He vetoed only 66 bills, and none of those were mine. So I was very happy about that. Got a few through that I've been working on for a couple of years in the residential treatment facility issue. Yeah, the year actually was shaped by two political undercurrents, certainly the state budget surplus and a recall election that was impending. The budget surplus allowed the governor and our legislative Democrats, who really are the only ones that participate in the budget discussions, negotiations, a better way to describe it, because we do have a budget committee that our people serve on, but the final decisions are made between the governor and the Assembly and Senate Democrat budget leaders. There are very costly examples that were put into this particular budget. Preschool for all 4-year-olds, despite the fact that our issue was that we have great needs for our K through 12, including very important class space. Medi-Cal for undocumented immigrants age 50 and over, and then the $600 stimulus payments that went to the low middle income families. The budget was passed, $267 billion budget this year, guys. And if you add what we got from the federal packages of, many of those, it was almost $500 billion that came into your state government for spending to address COVID and some of the other needs. So the revenues spiked dramatically, even though originally predicted a $39 billion deficit. However, it just totally reversed, and we actually came out with a $49 billion surplus. So spending has skyrocketed. There's some very important investments I know we're all very concerned about. That's our mental health issues, wildfire, disabled services, and expanding broadband so everyone has the opportunity, especially in the low income areas, our school children. However, it does raise concerns about the sustainability of our financial picture here in California. In fact, the LAO and the auditor predict that we're going to have deficit, our Department of Finance, that we will have deficits in the out years. And I think it was very interesting this year. A lot of people are saying, where's Governor Brown? Because Jerry Brown described the state spending when he was governor as not sustainable. So he was more of a fiscal conservative than our current makeup of the legislature. There were very high tensions between the moderate and liberal Democrats, which stymied many proposals. And the Mod Dems made a significant issues with some of the bills, especially on the Assembly side. I think the scheduled recall election also probably doomed some of the more liberal ideas. Those that stalled, critical that were which were to be discussed, let's say, was creating a single payer healthcare program. And I think we've all been through that a couple of years ago. So you're very aware of what that means. Creating a wealth tax. Expect some of these to come back. Legalizing psychedelic drugs and sanctioning clinics where addicts can use illegal drugs under medical supervision. That is actually a concept that comes from some of the European countries where they are doing that, and some successfully and some not so successfully. Legislature reconvenes on January 3rd in the coming year, and most likely those that I mentioned, we will see back on the agenda, and certainly split roll continues to be a big discussion. And I assume that we will see some iteration of it, at least discussion wise. I don't anticipate some of these being approved until after the election year, and it will be a critical one in 2022. With regard to the housing legislation, things that you're very concerned about, there were two very conservative bills, controversial bills that were certainly came on the agenda because we do need to increase housing, and these were signed by the governor. However, I did not support them because they undermine local control in several fashions. One is SB 9, Senator Atkins' bill, which changes single family neighborhoods. It allows the development of higher density housing in the existing single family zone neighborhoods. That was signed into law on September 16th. And it specifically allows, and you probably are aware of this, but just for the record, let's put it down. It allows for market rate homes where one now stands with no requirement that the infrastructure to supply those homes is to be upgraded. That rests with, I'm assuming, the developer, and with no local control or oversight on it. One is not sure what actually will come and who will be responsible for installing, and certainly the cost of that as it goes forward. There's even a scenario where 6 units could be allowed, and there's no guarantee or requirement that those units be affordable. In my recollection, all of the debate about housing and the discussion and the hand wringing and the hair pulling is that we need affordable housing, and that bill does not even require that. There's no guarantee of adequate parking. Most people, as you know, will still need cars here in California, especially in areas where we do not have the rapid transit that's available in more of the urban centers. I know San Diego is pretty suburban in many areas, and so is Orange County, which covers both ends of my district. So whether or not there's nearby public transit, people will still need a car. And that my concern is that there's not a requirement of on-site parking with any of these bills. It doesn't allow the city, local government to impose parking standards. And what we've had in South Orange County, and I'm sure you have examples in San Diego, when you have cars jamming the streets because there's no parking for them, it really impacts safe pedestrian access to schools, parks, commercial centers. And we've had some unfortunate serious accidents here when kids are passing between cars or on their way to a shopping center, not paying attention, and a car doesn't see them because they're passing between the cars. So it's something that really needs to have a deeper understanding and discussion. The second bill is SB 10 of Senator Wiener, that grants local councils the power to overrule voter adopted housing initiatives, which disenfranchises voters who adopted those. That was signed into law September 16th. Also, it provides for the development up to 10 units on what is currently a single family zoned lot. So these are certainly of major concern. I did not support SB 10 because it does undermine local control, and in this case, the will of the voters. I assure you this will be challenged when it comes to pass in any particular city or local government, because there has been a challenge to Encinitas' Prop A, and the judge ruled in favor of those citizens who challenged the expansion of multifamily and certain single family zones because of their locally approved initiative, and with the comment that local approved initiatives by the voters is provided for in the Constitution, and a state law just can't overturn that. And I don't have the specific details of something that needs some review, but I assume that it'll give a platform for more challenges when some of these start to come forward. Most of the building community agree that to develop more affordable housing, what do we need, guys? And we've heard it over and over, certainly in the years that I've served in the Assembly and the Senate, that we need to reform the California Environmental Quality Act, better known as CEQA, because it has been used to block projects for non-environmental reasons with competing developers. And you name it. There's reasons that people use it to stop development that may be very suitable for the site that it's going to be on. But it is the processing time, and of course, in development, time is money. So streamlining CEQA so the projects meeting all the requirements can proceed sooner. That certainly is going to reduce costs and increase production of what we know is very necessary affordable housing. And everybody agrees to that, but we seem to, I think it's been referred to, CEQA has been referred to as the Holy Grail, and how we get there. We just need more roundtables to discuss a path forward that actually protects the environmental concerns, but at the same time allows legitimate housing development and other development to go forward. One bill that I want to share with you that would impact housing, and here's where everyone agrees that it was not the time for AB 1395. This was by Assemblymember Murasachi. It would direct the California Air Resources Board to establish new climate goals to achieve 90% emission reduction by 2045 without any policies defined and balanced against the impacts to California's housing industry. The extraordinary aggressive goal would require actually a large scale transformation of the entire economy to meet the goals that are set forth. And again, there's no specifics. Just 5 years ago, the legislature passed SB 32. You're all probably familiar with the number. It set a 40% GHG emission reduction below 1990 by 2030. So we've ramped that up, 100%, and we've only allowed 15 more years. So an analysis that was done by a large coalition of California businesses and the unions combined determined that this bill, if enacted, would add a minimum of $50,000 to the price of every home in California, single-handedly driving out for sale and for rent homes for more Californians, placing that out of their reach. So the great news, you guys, we do work together in the legislature. This opposition to this bill, led by a coalition of Republicans and Democrats, did stymie the bill. It got killed. I do have a little concern that after the climate summit, that maybe it'll come back, maybe changing the number somewhat. But the question is our grid ready to handle the electricity that's going to be required with many of these major changes? That's just a starting point. So keep your eye on that one. On the coastal erosion and sea level rise, I certainly have enjoyed working with Smart Coast California and your association on the issues of sea level rise and the erosion bills. We all know that the erosion has wreaked havoc on our communities along California's coastline. And this has been going on for years as increasing amounts of bluffs are actually collapsing onto our beaches. As you are all very familiar with the tragedy that occurred at Encinitas, Grandview Beach, that was August 29th, 2019, when a bluff did collapse without warning and killed 3 members of a family. That was really the impetus for me introducing my bill, but it did follow similar bluff collapses. So we've been talking about trying to do something in those that happened in 1995, 2000, 2002, and 2008. So this just this past September in Orange County, there was a shift of ground beneath the railroad tracks in San Clemente that shut down MetroLink service between Oceanside, Laguna de Guel, and Mission Viejo stations. So it's affecting not only those sitting on the beach, the properties above, but our very, very critical infrastructure. So it has become especially acute in our 2 counties. I did support SB 1 by Senator Atkins this year. It will enact a sea level rise mitigation and adaptation act. it was bipartisan law, supported by both sides. It directs the Coastal Commission to take into account sea level rise in its planning policies and activities. And when we talk about policies, we need to take a long, hard look at some of the policies that are basically looking at just the managed retreat. So SB1 is a step in the right direction. There's $100 million appropriated annually that local governments will be able to access as they look at the policies that affect them and what might be done. My bill, SB 627, for this legislative session will help address coastal erosion and bluff collapse. As you know, the California Coastal Act of '76 allows for construction and Coastal Commission permitting of certain protective devices that alter natural shoreline processes to protect existing structures from erosion. And I'm reading that, right out of the actual Public Resources Code. The Commission's current coastal management strategy, as you know, does not prioritize this particular part of the Public Resource Code for erosion mitigation. Their term is managed retreat. And I guess there are some that believe we should just retreat and let erosion continue to go unchecked. It does beg the question, where does the retreat end? And that's a frequent question of people who live along the coast, even those who are not beachfront. I joke that if it goes on, certainly maybe past my lifetime, if it's going to take 25 or 30 more years, but my house could be beachfront if it goes across Pacific Coast Highway, when we're talking about this huge sea level rise out 50, 100 years. So something needs to be done in the meantime, and that's why, again, I believe that my bill would help save lives, preserve beach access, essential infrastructure, and ensure local control and property rights, which are fundamental to our democracy, by the way. It would require, if I might read very quickly what it requires, that requires the Coastal Commission to approve a public agency's or a homeowner's application for erosion mitigation efforts, but only if they meet certain requirements for coastal mitigation, and those are set forth in the Public Resource Code 30235. Unfortunately, this bill has been characterized as arming the coast. I have had not less than, I'd say, 4 interviews over the last 2 years in which I actually read from the PRC what is allowed, what the Coastal Commission can consider, and every one of the final report in the media, whether it was print or over internet, it said that Senator Bates's SB 6, excuse me, I have some water, 627 is an effort to create seawalls for the length of the California coast to protect private property. I want you to know that is absolutely untrue. I'd like you to read the bill and then read Public Resource Code 30235, and you will see what they have set forth. But I would hope that you would be able to support that bill. I'm taking it up again this year. I don't expect this is going to be necessarily successful, but it does raise the discussion, and we need to do that. I have 1 minute left, so I'll leave that to you guys if you have questions. I will mention on SB 9 and 10, as you know, there is a ballot measure that is being proposed that to be on the November 2022 to repeal SB 9 and 10. 400 homeowner associations and elected officials wrote letters, emails to oppose that bill. I showed that to my colleagues on the Senate floor when those came up for a vote, and they still passed the measures. They did caveat them that those properties in community interest developments and homeowner associations are exempt from the implementation, but I do not believe that that will last forever because it was not in the bill proper. It was the letter to the Journal. So pay attention to that too, and do take a look at the bills, the ballot measures that will most likely start to be circulated in the near future. With that, I gave you a lot, and I'm happy to come back when I can be in person and we can talk about all of it.